This really makes management easy, just as we discussed in the introduction. Yeah.
Yes, and simplifying these processes is crucial for today's businesses.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something right off the bat. When you look at your organization's balance sheet, is your HR department viewed as just a hidden, unavoidable cost, or is it treated as a highly quantifiable strategic asset? Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are completely demystifying the brand new ISO 30414-2025 standard. And let me tell you, this isn't just your standard HR update. It is a fundamental rewiring of exactly how global markets value the people inside a company.
For decades, human resources has essentially been trapped in this box as a traditional cost center. We tracked headcount, we tracked payroll, and well, that was pretty much it. But the ISO 3414-2025 update fundamentally shifts this whole paradigm. It transforms human resources into verifiable human capital. It literally gives you the exact formulas and frameworks to prove with real financial rigor that investing in your people is directly driving your corporate value. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the core changes for 2025. How this impacts investors, the rules for SMEs, some global case studies, and finally actionable next steps for enterprises right here in Taiwan.
All right, let's dive right into Section 1, ISO 30414 core changes, and how we're moving from mere guidelines to actual requirements.
So, back in 2018, the standard was basically just a set of voluntary guidelines featuring 58 metrics. It was, a nice to have. But the 2025 release aggressively upgrades these to strict requirements and recommendations, expanding the whole thing to 69 total metrics. The language has officially shifted from, hey, you could report this, to you absolutely shall report this. And that actually brings us to the most critical number in this entire new standard, 14. Out of those 69 metrics, 14 core metrics are now universally mandatory for external disclosure. It absolutely does not matter if you are a massive multinational tech giant or a regional logistics company. These 14 metrics are the baseline you must report.
Let's take a closer look at a few of these mandatory highlights. We've got total full-time equivalents, learning and development costs, EBIT per FTE, and human capital ROI. Now, there's actually a fascinating debate happening right now among HR and finance experts over things like human capital ROI. One side argues that making this a strict external requirement is going to terrify companies who are used to keeping this data completely locked away in internal HR dashboards. But the other side, the investor side, argues that without externalizing human capital ROI, your ESG reports are essentially just glossy marketing brochures. And the 2025 standard? It firmly sides with the investors here.
What's really interesting about this is seeing exactly where global compliance is heading. Look at the 2025 editions. You now absolutely must track the number, type, and outcome of human rights issues filed, as well as the percentage of employees covered by collective bargaining agreements. This directly ties human capital reporting into modern supply chain due diligence. Plus, there are new, really strict guidelines on how you collect data using AI and HR tech, which directly addresses modern privacy and ethical concerns.
Moving on to Section 2, Investors and ESG Value. We're talking TCFD integration and market valuation.
The 2025 update strongly recommends structuring your human capital reports using the TCFD framework. And yes, I know, that's the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. So why use a climate framework for HR? Well, because investors already speak this language. You break your HR data into governance, strategy, risk and opportunity, and metrics and targets. This seamlessly integrates your people data right alongside global sustainability reporting.
When investors look at your disclosure, they aren't just skimming. They're hunting for specific strategic indicators. Take unplanned absenteeism, for example. To a traditional manager, sure, that's just an attendance issue. But to an investor, tracking unplanned absenteeism is a massive early warning system. It's a leading indicator for operational risk, plunging employee morale, and impending burnout across the team. The same goes for the voluntary turnover rate and the CEO to median pay ratio. These metrics reveal the true health, fairness, and viability of your corporate culture.
Let's shift gears to Section 3, SMEs and proportionality, and how this standard actually relieves the reporting burden.
The architects of ISO 3414 built in this brilliant protective mechanism called the proportionality principle. Essentially, this means scaling your human capital reporting investment to match your actual operational capacity. Under this principle, while massive enterprises have a huge list of metrics to disclose externally, SMEs only need to track 30 recommended metrics internally. Aside from those 14 core mandatory metrics we just talked about, SMEs are completely exempt from the external disclosure burden for the rest of them. And this brilliantly illustrates how SMEs should be using this standard for internal defense and growth. You should be prioritizing metrics like the critical turnover rate. Think about it. In an SME, you often have this extreme reliance on just a few key individuals, what the standard literally calls critical person dependencies. Losing them is an absolute operational disaster. By tracking this, alongside things like average formal training hours, SMEs can proactively train their employees to mitigate the risk of losing top talent just because they didn't see a clear promotion path.
And you know, it's not just for corporate entities either. The 2025 standard introduces highly specific guidance tailored for nonprofits in the public sector, utilizing metrics like budget per FTE and surplus per FTE. It ensures that even NGOs can accurately quantify their human capital efficiency without being forced into a strictly corporate, profit-driven box.
All right, Section 4, Global Certified Case Studies. Let's look at putting ISO 3414 into practice.
Look at how incredibly adaptable this standard is across different industries. Infineon, a massive tech company, achieved their certification by focusing broadly on 23 metrics across 9 areas, including compliance, leadership, and diversity. Over in the finance sector, Deutsche Bank utilized the standard to provide highly detailed, rigorous quantitative KPIs, treating their human capital with the exact same mathematical precision as their financial products. Meanwhile, Dentsu Soken, a Japanese consulting firm, honed in heavily on engagement and diversity KPIs, proving that in a service industry, your people's psychological investment literally is your brand value.
Finally, Section 5, Next Steps for Taiwan. Let's talk actionable strategies for local enterprises.
So if you're ready to pursue this, the path generally breaks down into a 2-stage process. Step 1 is a quick checkup, basically a rapid gap analysis to see just how far your current HR data is from the new standard. Step 2 is the formal certification assessment. And as a super practical starting point, just acquiring the official ISO 30414-2025 standard document online costs about 199 Swiss francs. That is an incredibly minor investment to get the literal blueprint to your human capital strategy.
But honestly, here is a massive warning. Do not try to do this all on manual spreadsheets. Please save yourself the agony. The standard explicitly recommends adopting proper HR tech solutions. Maintaining consistent mathematical formulas reduces the manual reporting burden and gets your data architecture in line. Because think about it, if you want to leverage AI tools down the road, you absolutely cannot do it if you're bogged down by messy, inconsistent data.
For enterprises right here in Taiwan, finding the right metrics is really a process of what we call dynamic focusing. You have to find that sweet spot, the intersection between your unique business strategy, global investor expectations, and local regulations, like the FSC's Sustainable Development Action Plan. When you align those 3 things, your HR metrics stop being administrative chores and become highly strategic assets.
So what does this all mean for you? Well, the shift from HR as a hidden cost center to human capital as a verifiable asset, it's no longer just some management theory. With ISO 30414-2025, it is a mandated reality. So I'll leave you with this question. Is your organization's data actually mature enough to withstand this level of external scrutiny? Or are you still relying on gut feeling to manage your most expensive asset? Take a hard look at those 14 mandatory metrics and start building your roadmap today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.
记得点赞关注哦。